Today, we're heading out to a pretty special forest in Utah to meet one of the oldest and heaviest living things on the entire planet. But this isn't your typical nature trip. What looks like a massive forest is hiding an incredible secret, and this ancient giant is in some serious trouble.
So take a look at this. At first glance, it's just a beautiful grove of quaking aspen trees, right? You see their bright white bark against the hillside. It looks like any other sprawling woodland, made up of thousands and thousands of individual trees.
Except it's not. Get this, every single trunk you see here, all 47,000 of them, are genetically identical. They're all stems rising from one singular, massive shared root system underground. This isn't a forest. It's one single colossal organism. So how in the world is that possible? Well, the science behind it is just fascinating. It's called a clonal colony. It all started with just one little seed, but instead of making more seeds, it just started sending its roots out sideways. New stems, the things we see as trees, sprout up from that one root system. It's basically cloning itself over and over and over again, all connected underground.
Okay, so just how big is this one organism? The scale is honestly almost impossible to wrap your head around, but let's give it a shot. Let's try to put its size into perspective.
Let's start with weight. Pando, that's its name, it's Latin for eye spread, is estimated to weigh an incredible 13 million pounds. That's about 6,000 metric tons. And that makes it, by mass, the heaviest known living organism on Earth, period.
And what about the space it takes up? Well, it covers 106 acres. If that number doesn't mean much to you, picture this. That's the same as about 80 American football fields, all covered by a single, interconnected plant. And its age? This is where it gets really mind-bending. While the individual stems you see only live for about 130 years, the root system they're all attached to is estimated to be an incredible 80,000 years old. It sprouted from a seed the size of a pepper grain when woolly mammoths were still walking the earth.
So where does Pando fit into the whole world's largest organism debate? It's kind of complicated. You've got the humongous fungus in Oregon that covers more area, and there's a seagrass in Australia that's technically the largest plant by area. But Pando's claim to fame is its absolutely staggering weight. That makes it the undisputed heavyweight champion of the living world. But here's the tragic twist in the story. Despite its immense size, despite its ancient history, Pando is in serious, serious trouble. This giant that has survived for millennia is now facing a modern crisis that threatens its very existence.
This quote just nails the problem. You see, for a healthy aspen clone, when the old stems die, new ones, called suckers, should be constantly sprouting up to replace them. But that's not happening in Pando. The old generation is dying off, and there's no younger generation rising up to take its place.
And this picture shows you everything you need to know. On the left, see that section that's fenced off? It's thriving. It's packed with young, healthy saplings. But on the right, in an unprotected area, the ground is bare. You can see right through the old trunks because there's absolutely no new growth. So what's going on here? Why has this ancient giant suddenly stopped regenerating? Well, the answer isn't with the tree itself, but with the entire ecosystem around it. It's a classic case of a broken food web. Here's the chain reaction. About a century ago, humans removed most of the natural predators, like wolves and bears, from this landscape. Without those predators to keep things in check, the populations of mule deer and elk just exploded. So now you have all these hungry animals, and their favorite food is tender, young aspen sprouts. They're eating Pando's entire next generation before it even gets a chance to grow up. And the numbers really tell the story. The region is now home to an estimated 300,000 mule deer and 77,000 elk. With that many hungry mouths to feed, Pando's young saplings, they just don't stand a chance. So we know the problem. But the solution, well, that's where things get really complicated. The most obvious fix has created a deep and pretty difficult dilemma for everyone involved. We've already seen that fencing actually works. I mean, it works great. Where they've put up these 8-foot-tall fences to keep the deer and elk out, Pando has responded almost immediately, sending up this thick carpet of new growth that just thrives once it's protected. So why not just restore the natural balance? The direct ecological solution would be to reintroduce predators like wolves to control the deer and elk, but that runs into some huge socioeconomic barriers. Local ranchers are worried that predators would threaten their livestock, and the state's hunting industry, which relies on having big deer and elk populations, generates over $20 million a year in fees alone.
And this all leads to a much bigger philosophical problem. Ecologist Paul Rogers put it perfectly here. Fencing is really just a temporary fix. It's a band-aid that treats the symptom, not the cause. It protects Pando, sure, but it risks turning this wild organism into something like a managed zoo exhibit.
And that really brings us to the heart of the matter. Pando's fate forces us to ask a much bigger question about our relationship with the natural world and what it truly means to save something that's wild.
And there's no doubt that Pando is a treasure. I mean, it was even honored on a U.S. postage stamp as one of the 40 wonders of America. This is an organism that has witnessed 80,000 years of history, and now its future is completely in our hands.
So we're left with this question. Pando is a wild thing, defined by its connection to a much larger, functioning ecosystem. To save it from a problem that we created, do we have to fundamentally change its nature by fencing it off from the very world it belongs to? It's a challenge that goes far beyond one tree in Utah, and it's something we're all going to have to grapple with.